Is Dubai about to crash? Prices are climbing, headlines are screaming, and anyone who remembers 2008 is getting nervous. I arrived in Dubai in 2003 when the population was around 1 million. I watched the 2008 crash unfold firsthand. And over the past 2 decades, I've transacted over $2 billion in this market through the crash, the recovery, and what's happening now. So when people ask me if we're heading for another crash, I don't guess. I look at the data, and the data tells a completely different story from what the headlines are screaming about. So in this video, we're going to compare these two moments side by side, and then I'm going to show you the metrics that actually matter when you're deciding whether to invest or wait. First off, I need to address what I call the lazy comparison, and it's costing investors millions in lost opportunity. People look at price chart, see a line going up, and lazy analysts scream 2008 all over again. They're ignoring the reality on the ground. I remember 2008. I remember the cranes stopping. I remember the ghost towns where you had a tower in the desert with no road to it. That was the Wild West. But today I drive past those same areas and they aren't ghost towns anymore. They're thriving communities with schools, malls, and metro stations. Here's what the lazy comparison misses entirely. In 2008, Dubai was a project funded by debt and oil. In 2026, Dubai is a product funded by a diversified global economy and tangible population demand. You cannot compare a speculative bubble with a structural evolution. We aren't just building towers anymore, we're building a nation. Before you make any decision about whether to invest or keep waiting, you need to actually look at what's different between these two time periods. Not just the price charts, the fundamentals that drive them. Now, I've spent 2 decades analyzing this market, and I've distilled everything I've learned into a single resource. It's called the Dubai Investor Due Diligence Checklist, and it walks you through exactly how to verify these fundamentals before you sign anything. It's the exact framework I use with my private clients to separate hype from reality. You can download it for free using the link in the description. So let's do what the lazy analysts won't. Let's actually compare these two moments side by side across the metrics that matter. 2008 versus 2026, the real comparison. Let's talk about the population. 2008, 1.7 million, transient labor force, people left when jobs were cut. 2026, 4 million people, long-term residents and families. We hit the 4 million milestone in 2025, and the Dubai 2040 Urban Master Plan targets 5.8 million residents by 2040, aiming for a total population, including workers and visitors, of around 7.8 million. The economy. 2008, oil and construction dependent, a one-legged stool which collapsed with the oil price. 2026, a diversified fortress. 77% of GDP is non-oil. We're driven by tech, trade, and finance. We have decoupled from oil. This is no longer a petrostate economy. It's a diversified global hub. 2008, the Wild West. No escrow, 5% down payments. Developers vanished with cash. 2026, strictly regulated. Escrow accounts are mandatory. Project audits from start to finish. Your capital is ring-fenced. Leverage. 2008, systemic risk. 90 to 95% mortgages were standard. Speculators gambled with bank money. 2026, healthy equity. Mortgages are capped at 80%. Cash buyers dominate the luxury market. Infrastructure. 2008, promised. No metro, roads jammed, brochure infrastructure. 2026, delivered. World's busiest international airport, Metro Blue Line under active construction. The government has approved the largest budget cycle in history, 302 billion dirhams for 2026 to 2028, with 48% of that strictly allocated to infrastructure. This isn't just about numbers on a chart. The market isn't crashing, it's maturing. When someone tells you it's just like 2008, ask them, which of these 5 fundamentals are the same? Population, economy, regulation, leverage, infrastructure. Because if they can't answer that, they're making a lazy comparison. A lazy comparisons lead to expensive mistakes, either sitting on the sidelines while opportunity passes you by, or panic buying without verifying the fundamentals. What you should do instead of waiting for a collapse that isn't coming. So if the crash isn't coming, what's the winning strategy? Because here's the trap most investors fall into. The winning strategy is neither waiting nor rushing. It's conducting what I call a fundamental value audit. You do not sign a contract until you have verified the 3 essential underwriters of value. Here's exactly what you need to verify. Point 1, economic gravity. Most people buy based on the view, the amenities, or the developer's brand. They completely ignore whether anyone will actually need to live or work near the property long term. Economic gravity is simple. Is this project connected to a major employment hub? Is it near DIFC, DMCC, or the airport? Because real estate values follow jobs, not hype. If it's a 25-minute commute to a major business district, you have built-in tenant demand that isn't dependent on speculation. This is especially critical for the global investor. You're not living in the property. You need consistent rental income from end users who actually work in Dubai. Economic gravity gives you that defensibility. Ask yourself, would a professional making at least 30,000 dirhams a month choose to live here? If the answer is no, walk away. Your rental yields depend on tenant demand, and tenant demand follows employment hubs. Irrecoverable scarcity. Most people think scarcity just means limited units in this building, but that's not scarcity, that's artificial marketing. Can a developer build 5 to 10 more towers with this exact view or location? If the answer is yes, the asset is a commodity. You have no pricing power. You're competing with identical units in identical buildings, and the market will drive prices toward replacement cost. If the answer is no, it's an investment. You own something that cannot be replicated. A beachfront plot with no more land available. A marina view with no more marina frontage. Irrecoverable scarcity is what protects your capital appreciation. It's the difference between buying generic inventory and owning a strategic position. Check the master plan. Look at available land parcels. If there are 10 more identical plots next door, you're buying a commodity, and commodities get squeezed in a competitive market. Point 3. Infrastructure reality. Most people look at the developer's brochure and see a metro station, a park, and a school. They assume it's real. Infrastructure reality means you don't just look at the map, you verify the budget. Is the government currently spending money to connect this asset to the city? This is where Dubai 2026 is fundamentally different from 2008. The government isn't hoping for infrastructure. They're funding it. 302 billion dirhams for 2026 to 2028, with 48% strictly allocated to infrastructure. The Metro Blue Line isn't a concept. It's under active construction. The Al Maktoum Airport expansion isn't a promise. They've broken ground, and in fact, it's already being used by commercial flights, freight, and private. But you still need to verify which projects are funded and which are aspirational. Not every area has the same level of government investment. Before you commit, go to the government's official project announcements. Search for the Al Maktoum Airport expansion zones. If your property sits along an active, funded infrastructure project, that's a 30 billion dirham investment already in progress. But if the developer is showing you a future road or a planned metro station with no budget allocation or no timestamp, treat it as an aspirational until proven otherwise. Follow the government's money, not the developer's brochure. Now, it's one thing to understand these 3 essential underwriters intellectually. It's another thing entirely to apply them when you're about to transfer $1 million into a foreign market from 5,000 miles away. That's why we offer a strategy call to stress test your shortlist and make sure your purchases actually fit a portfolio plan. If you want that level of due diligence before you commit your capital, book a confidential strategy call using the link in the description. Now, there's one place investors still lose money even when they get the macro call right. So watch this next, where I break down the thing you must absolutely check before buying off plan, because those checks are what separates a clean deal from a portfolio headache.